Vancouver Technical Secondary School is one of the largest schools in the district. It has 4 floors and 2 wings. There are a number of special needs programs. One example is the Developmental Skills Program, taught by Ms. Rankin. Another is the Learning Assistance Life Skills, taught by Mr. Borison. These programs, along with others, are critical to the education and safety of many of our students and classmates. Yet they are underfunded and carted off to obscure parts of the school, disconnecting them from the rest of the student body. It is our goal to help bring awareness to the rest of the school and to promote a safe and respectful environment for everyone.
At Vantech, I see it being a little more isolated just because of the locations of the classrooms, because of they're in the 600 wing, while the LA Life Skills is in the 600 wing in the basement. I'm not too happy about that, so we're looking at how do we get them into more of a regular area of the school.
The name of the program is the Developmental Skills Program at Vantech. In this program specifically, most of the children have nonverbal autism. One of the main characteristics of impairment is communication. The students in my program, they're considered nonverbal, but some of them are minimally verbal. They don't always necessarily use language in a meaningful way.
Our program is called LALS program. It's called Learning Assistance Life Skills. It's a district program. They all have some type of disability or a ministry designation. I don't know if you're familiar with a ministry designation. Is kids who have a ministry designation have some type of special need, from anything from an intellectual special need like a learning disability to more profound learning disabilities, or some physical disabilities like cerebral palsy or Down syndrome or anything of that sort. We also have kids with autism on the spectrum, autistic spectrum.
My 20 years of teaching prior to coming into a vice principal, as I taught programs in the Vancouver School Board, were students with autism, students with Down syndrome, students with a variety of disabilities, as well as before as teacher I was a special ed assistant in Vancouver as well. Money is given from the Ministry of Education to the school board, but so someone with autism, the school board gets an additional $18,000 per year to help provide supports for them. But if they need a full-time special ed assistant, that's about $40,000 in salary. So already we're $22,000 per student with autism underfunded.
It drives me absolutely crazy when they say the kids are doing really well, so we're going to pull support. That seems completely counterintuitive, but it happens a lot.
If we were just to go by the budget alone, it's definitely not nearly enough.
Yeah.
Right? And to be able to give these kids an opportunity to go on outings, because we do that all the time. Oftentimes we have to, we have to make a bomb out of Bisquick. So we have to be really resourceful. We have to, if we know people in the community that can cut us a break and it doesn't cost us that much, we'll utilize that, because funding alone is just not enough. And oftentimes, and you probably heard it before, is, the teachers spend their own money on their kids. Yeah, I definitely spend my own money on my kids.
I think the teachers in both of the programs here, as well as the Links program, and we have a number of programs here at Vantech, do an incredible job. We're trying to get a couple of the LA Life Skills kids into regular PE, because they're fully capable of doing the same PE curriculum as everybody else. But again, it's about what levels of support they have, because they will need one of the EAs or one of the special ed assistants to go with them. And because we don't have enough of those for the number of kids and types of needs they have, then decisions have to be made. And sometimes we want to be really careful to make sure the kids' needs are first and that safety comes first, right?
So where are we going?
So we are on our way to Victoria from Vancouver to Wasson. We're going to interview my uncle and my cousin. She has cerebral palsy, so she'll have a lot of insight on the topic. And it's 9 in the morning. I can see my breath.
Sadly Garvin, age 14 years old, 14 and a half, if you count months.
Okay,
and
What's your disability?
It's called cerebral palsy, for those who don't know. It affects my body and my speech in like spasticity and the way my tongue moves. I think it's hard for anybody to interact with other people because they're not themselves per se. They just want to be perceived differently to fit in like a pack. You know how cliques work? How people like to band together? Well, I have nobody. They don't really get the time to know me, so they don't really care. And sometimes it's just so hard.
I find a lot of teasing or poking fun comes from ignorance, from not being educated and not understanding. So I've actually had a couple of incidents with students in the past that I've heard them sort of mocking people. I take the bus, so I've heard them mocking some of my kids without them knowing I was there, and I sort of tap them on the shoulder. And actually one of the ways that I dealt with it was I brought that student into my class for a couple of blocks. And I taught them about the kids, and I taught them about how they learn. And funny enough, this student was actually having a bit of a hard time himself, and it really opened his eyes, I think. But he also realized that these kids are completely non-judgmental. They valued him being in there. They saw him just as anybody else. They didn't know that he was having difficulty in his classes. They didn't know that he wasn't attending school. And eventually this student ended up coming in every day at lunch because it was a safe place for him to be, and he felt valued. And he got more from these kids than I think he ever thought of, and that spurred from him teasing them.
And I eat with the other handicapped kids, and it's nice. You get to see who they truly are.
Something that she probably enjoys that I don't like so much is that they take her out at lunchtime and she eats in a separate room, so she's not with the general population of the school, and because of that I think you get more separated, and kids don't get to know her so well because she's not there socially.
Yeah,
She goes on a special bus which has the ramp or the lift that enables her to use the wheelchair. Because they don't want to congest the car park, at the end of the school day, they take her out of class early, which is about 20 minutes, and it's her science, which is an academic subject, obviously, and so she's missing out daily on her academic education. So they've asked us to pick her up from school, which we're able to do at the moment, but they're also taking her out, we believe, 10 minutes early anyway to, I guess, because the hallways get congested when everybody just barges out of the classroom. So she misses out on some of her education because of that.
They didn't want to take her upstairs to her science lab because they were worried the elevator would break down and they wouldn't be able to get her out of school, right? So it's the last... And the trouble is, if it's the last block of the day, they don't want to be stuck, being a school and the system, do not want to be stuck with a child upstairs and them trying to figure out how to get the elevator to work.
I think she gets lonely.
The little kids see me as something like their parents do, but more severe and imagination-ridden, like some sort of monster that can't be explained. They perceive me as something not quite here, but I'm still physically here, just not mentally in this world. Yeah, I think they perceive me as weak. Because I can't move around, and I have to rely on others. And they see me as just just a liability or something that doesn't belong in their world. I feel like some sort of accident that they can't get rid of. But don't we all feel like that?
A way that we can educate the greater student population about some of these the needs of the kids, about how to communicate with them. Just because they don't speak doesn't mean they don't understand, and they don't hear what you're saying. So even just saying hi to some of them really makes them feel good about themselves. You know, for you guys, if you see somebody sort of making fun or mocking, or even, you know, using what we call the R word, it's sort of like the campaign "That's So Gay." You know, that's a hurtful word, and it's become sort of a derogatory term. It's the same as, "Oh, that's so retarded." You know, these words have power, and retarded is sort of started out as a medical term. It means things have been slowed, but when you're using that in a derogatory way, it hurts, just like anything else. So I think it's important, if you hear these words or if you hear people making fun, you know, you really have to stop, and that takes tons of courage, but you have to stop and tell people, you know, there's people with special needs in the school. That could really hurt them. Some of these kids have these gifts that, you know, one of the students is so gifted at piano. He sits down and plays, and it's incredible. You wouldn't know he had autism. You wouldn't know he couldn't speak. He plays beautifully, and he has played for some of the music classes. And so it's funny because if you just saw him playing, you would have no idea he was any different than anybody else.